All right. Hello and welcome to Just Animals Podcast. I'm Elle, and with me, as always, is my dad, Guy.
Hello, Pod World. Good to be back.
Dad, you're still super quiet. Sorry. Anyways, we have a very special guest today from a very exciting animal rescue that I personally love. I've been kind of following these guys for a while now, but we have Bart with us from, excuse me, from Best Friends Animal Society. He is the supervisor for their wild animal rescue, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Excellent. So I'll let you. You know what, Bart? This is your time. You tell us who you are and what you do, and about Best Friends Animal Society.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited. This is my first time on a podcast, and I've been
Yay!
kind of itching and dying to get on one. So thank you for having me.
Of course.
Um, and like you said, yes, I'm the supervisor of Wild Friends, which is a wildlife rescue center that is, it's kind of its own entity, but it's a part of Best Friends Animal Society. They house us here on site. They fund us, which is absolutely amazing. Um, and so I've been about here for about an hour and a half, a year and a half, and it's been a dream of mine. Like I've been working with wildlife for a very long time, but to do it out here in southern Utah, it's just absolutely it's incredible. It's stunning.
That's awesome. That is
Bart,
so
is it
cool.
Best Friend Animal Society or Best Friend Animal Sanctuary, or are they the same?
Yeah, so they're the same. So when they first started, when they opened up back in 1984, they were Best Friends Animal Sanctuary because they were primarily just housed here in southern Kanab or southern Utah in the town of Kanab.
Mhm.
And as they grew to be a nationwide company, they decided that, the sanctuary is not, it's a huge part of what they do, but they wanted to branch out and do more. So now they have, partnerships and affiliates, and they have embed teams that go to other rescues and shelters around the country. So they're no longer just a sanctuary, they're now this whole giant organization. So they are one and the same. But when we refer to the sanctuary, we usually just are talking about what's housed here in Kanab.
Okay.
Excellent. Alrighty, so I kind of follow y'all's newsletter and I get stuff from you guys. So today, Bart is going to be telling us the hopefully triumphant story of the owl and the cement mixer. First off, when was this? Were you part of the rescue? And what kind of owl is it? And I'll let you take it from there, Bart.
Yeah, thank you. So it was one of the most interesting phone calls I had ever gotten.
Yeah,
And ironically, it was a phone call that came in on October 31st, so Halloween.
of course.
Great time. And I wasn't there for the original rescue. The phone call came from a Division of Wildlife Resources employee who was in St. George, and he got a call from someone on a construction site that says, "Hey, we have this great horned owl who found his way into a concrete mixer."
Oh gosh.
So I
Yeah.
know it, and immediately I'm sure you guys are having the same thought as most people.
They're like,
They're
yeah, this
picturing
isn't going
an
to end well.
owl like tumbling in a concrete mixer and coming out looking like one of those cement statues that you put in your
Right.
garden that looks like an owl, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
or,
so
or or a concrete brick, one or the other.
yeah,
With eyes.
exactly. We had no idea. We were fearful for the worst, right?
Yeah.
And
Totally.
so we ended up getting him the next day because it was late in the day already, and St. George is an hour and a half from us. So feasibility of getting him here was just not going to work. So the next morning, I went out first thing, grabbed him, brought him back to the sanctuary, brought him to our wildlife clinic, and after letting him rest for about an hour, pulled him out of his crate with a team of two other people, and we got to do a quick exam on him. And that's when we really found the extent of the concrete that was covering him. And again, not encased like most people probably think,
Right.
but it was quite a bit of concrete. It looked like I grew up in the era of chalkboards at school. So if someone took two erasers and clapped it over this owl, that's what he looked like. He was just dust covered in this concrete. And
Yeah.
then as we examined further, we're finding chunks. I mean,
Yeah.
these are like quarter-sized dried concrete chunks,
Yeah.
primarily on his wings, body. We were finding pieces on his face and his bill. Um, so we had mixed feelings. We're happy that this guy isn't just a statue, but we're worried because it's near his face. We don't know how much is in his nose, in his
Right.
mouth, in his eyes. And so after the exam, we kind of set him aside, letting him rest some more. And that's where we started brainstorming.
Yeah. What
Again,
do you do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what we looked at each other and said the exact same thing. We've never seen a case like this. We started reaching out to other wildlife rescues, to our vet clinic. We even reached out. We have a parrot department here that works primarily with just exotic birds, macaws,
Cool.
parrots. And we said, have you guys ever heard of and a bird getting stuck in concrete? And if so, what do you do? And no one had experienced it, but everybody had some like answers of like, well, try this and try this. And it ranged from using alcohol and vinegar to slough stuff off to using like mineral oil to
Oh,
loosen
sure.
it.
Yeah.
It slides off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, this was new to us, so we said, well, let's start with the least invasive
Sure.
method,
Sure.
and then we'll work up to the oils,
Right.
alcohol, vinegar, whatever. We want to try to preserve these wings and feathers as
Sure.
best we can.
Sure.
Um, so that we started with a Dawn dish soap wash. Everybody loves Dawn
Okay.
dish soap. It
Yes, with the
works.
ducks and the oil spill. Yeah.
Yeah, if it worked for the ducks, it can work for owls.
Sure.
So we started doing that, and of course, we're cleaning the dusty parts off, which is wonderful. But these chunks, they're not going anywhere. So,
Eek.
well, okay, what are we going to do? There's no solvent that's just going to dissolve concrete off of an owl and not
Right.
damage.
Right, and not
So
hurt the owl at the same time.
exactly. So I said, well, okay, maybe we're overthinking this. Let's simple. What can we use to break concrete? They're small chunks. Let's grab some pliers. Let's grab some forceps, which are basically medical tweezers,
Mhm.
and let's start squeezing. I mean, very cautiously, obviously.
Right.
Squeeze, 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 and man, to our surprise, it was amazing. It crushed concrete, it dusted, and then we would kind of scrape it off. We
Oh,
moved to the
that's
next
great.
chunk. Yeah, I mean, okay, simple solution. Let's go with this until it doesn't work.
Mhm.
So it took about 5 sessions because we kept them short.
Sure.
This owl is stressed out.
Right, you don't wanna
Yeah.
Um,
traumatize them even more.
yeah, and we sedated him, like a
Yeah.
very light sedation. And after the first time, we realized he was struggling to come out of the sedation. So
Ooh.
okay, like all right, maybe we keep them shorter. So we started doing 15-minute sessions, no longer than 20, and it seemed to work better for the owl. Um,
Excellent.
but we got the majority of the concrete off, and we also, being lucky, we have at Best Friends we have great resources, and we get access to some of the best equipment. So we have an X-ray machine in our own wildlife clinic.
Oh, that's
So
great.
um, we popped them up there a couple times, and the chunks of concrete will show up as like bright white
Sure, right.
markers
Mhm.
on there. So we're like, okay, well, we missed this, or we got to go clean this more. And eventually, it was virtually non-existent.
Oh, wow.
Um, and of course, we're also worried. We started with the mouth and the nose because that was the most like could be the most devastating.
Right, yeah.
And also, the X-ray was great because we can see if he ingested any of this,
Right.
which luckily, such a minor amount, it wouldn't have affected. He was
Oh,
going to
that's great.
pass the pellet.
Right.
Did the
Uh,
folks that pulled them out of the cement mixer think about rinsing them off when they pulled them out? Did that come to?
That's a good question. I actually don't know. I never got a chance to talk to the actual finders. I just talked to the wildlife officer. Um, it From the way it looked, I don't think they may have rinsed them, but I think they may have like tried to
Get some
Dust
of
them
wipe
it
off.
off
stuff.
of him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't speak for that because or if that's true or not. It
Right.
just again when I'm thinking an owl in a cement mixer, I thought he would have been more
Right. Just, like,
consistently
covered.
covered. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after 15 days, we were able to put him in a flight aviary to
Oh,
test his
yay!
flight, which he flies great, which is wonderful. But we have one downside, and we knew that kind of right off the bat, looking at the damage to the feathers. He is probably not going to fly silently, and
Oh, and that's what owls need, like, that's their whole thing is the silence. Oh,
exactly,
boy.
yeah. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like certain feather designs, but like other raptors, like a hawk,
I'm so sorry.
they're yeah, you're good. A hawk's feathers, the leading and trailing edges are actually very smooth. Um, and an owl's leading and trailing edges of a feather have what they call combs and tufts. And what that does is reduce air turbulence as they fly, and it reduces sound. And that's how they're able to sneak up on their prey. And if you can't do
Okay.
that, then he's never going to be able to eat.
Right, and then what are you gonna do for him? Yeah, I'm surprised, honestly, he even had, like, flight feathers or any feathers left, like, his body wasn't just like, "We're just gonna shed all of these because this has been really traumatic, we're just kinda done with this," or I know, like, parrots and stuff, when they're really stressed, they'll just, like, pick out their feathers. Was he doing any of that behavior? Has he done any of that?
He has actually. So after 2 or 3 weeks, we actually caught him flying, and we noticed he was missing a couple feathers. And typically, these guys molt late summer. This is a new bird, so he isn't going to molt until like next summer. So we're like, okay, he must be plucking these out, which is great. Well, he's helping us, which is great. However, it's not as we're not as lucky as we thought. Like they need that hormonal um, increase to molt, and that only happens once a year, regardless of whether they lose a feather or not. It's just going to happen at the same time. So we were hopeful, like, oh, he'll pluck them out, and then his body's going to kick into gear and say, I need new feathers and grow them. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. So we are going to be housing him probably till late spring, early summer,
Sure,
hopefully, and he'll start molting.
sure.
What's the
Just for all
strangest
this
animal you've ever
noise in the
rescued?
background, our retired racing greyhound just got the zoomies and has now turned our house into a racetrack, so I apologize for all the extra noise.
No, not at all. I love it.
Uh,
Sorry, you asked
yeah, sorry, Dad,
I
what were
was
you saying?
asking what the most exotic animal you've ever rescued. Obviously, an owl is pretty exotic, but maybe there's something else like a bobcat or puma or.
Yeah, Puma would be pretty cool. We're not really set up to house a Puma if we did get one. However, we did get a Bobcat last year. It was a little kitten.
Oh,
Mm,
Um, I think, a couple were walking their dogs through their field, and they were letting the dogs run, and the dogs spooked off the mom, which I'm gonna say it
mhm.
abandoned the baby, but like got kicked off the babies, and they watched it for 2 days, and the mom never came back. So we ended up rescuing that baby bobcat.
oh wow.
Are you able to turn it back out to the wild, or do you have to keep it in a rescue center, or how did that work?
So we were lucky enough to reach out to another center that has surrogate bobcat mothers.
Oh, cool.
Hmm.
And we knew no matter how much we act like a bobcat and try to raise this bobcat, we're not going to do a better job than mom. So we transferred the bobcat to this other facility. And from what the last update I got was that it was being raised with another kitten, and they're about ready for release. So I'm excited to
Yay!
hear the good news.
Yay!
You couldn't
So,
use AI to help you let let the bobcat watch a video in AI
yeah, Chat
of other
GPT, how to
things.
be a bobcat forward. There you
Right
go. That's perfect.
there, you
So,
are.
circling back to the owl, so was this another wildlife officer that like was holding on to him for the evening and you just picked him up from like that place, or did you have to get him from the construction site?
No, so that officer did pick him up, and then actually he took the owl to another shelter in St. George that we typically work with to
Mhm.
hold animals for us, and they were kind enough to hold the owl overnight until I got there in the morning.
Okay, good. Good, good,
Yeah, we're
good.
starting to make really good contacts in
I'm
other
sure.
cities and towns for these reasons.
Yeah,
We're
no,
pretty isolated.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, is how old do you think he's? Were you saying he was a juvenile still?
Yeah, based on his size, we believe he's a male, and based on the feather patterning, we think he was probably a hatch year, meaning he was born earlier that, I guess, 2025, so last year.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I joke, I say he's probably because he was a little bit young and dumb, and that's why he ended up
Yeah.
in a concrete mixer. But I can't speak to that. But we do believe he's a young male.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So probably still has some growing to do. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say like that's great. And like, was this during the day, or were when he got in the cement mixer? Was this like during dusk, like as they were kind of closing up shop, or?
So I don't know when he got in it, but it was at dusk that they were, closing up shop, and I think that's probably when he probably went to go turn the mixer off and found the owl in there,
Oh, poor
Mm.
guy.
which thankfully he saw, like, looked in before he shut it off, because that probably
Yeah.
would have hardened overnight and he would have been stuck
Yeah,
in there.
Yeah. That he really would have been a owl brick. Eek.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Or an owl statue.
That, yeah, an owl statue. He would have had an actual owl statue. That's crazy. So then when you got him in, and your first thing, I know you guys were just like, let's, kind of inventory the damage here. So have you been able to get all the concrete and concrete dust off of him, or is there maybe still some residual?
No, we were able to get absolutely every chunk off. The dust, I believe, we got off pretty early because we were doing those Dawn dish soap baths,
Sure.
and we do our due diligence. So we catch him, every once in a while to weigh him, make sure he's eating, gaining weight, and we check feathers and make sure that those are, healing, or that if he's plucking them out, he's not doing any damage. So
Right.
we always do a double take and make sure, okay, yeah, we make sure there's no concrete, there's nothing left on his stomach or feet or anything like that.
Right. Right. So can you give us a little background on great horned owls? Like what's their typical behavior, where we can find them in the US?
Yeah, absolutely. So great horned owls is probably one of the most widespread owls in the
Okay,
U.S. They're
cool.
virtually everywhere,
Okay.
into Canada. Um, they're the most common when people talk about owls, or I saw an owl outside, and the great horned owl is usually the one that comes to mind. Most people think of
Okay.
Oh yeah.
the big brown
Yeah.
and beige with the ear tufts.
Yes.
Um, when
Yes.
you in cartoons and movies, that's the one that's portrayed as typically as a great horned owl. So yeah, so they're pretty much found everywhere. They get up to about 2,500 grams, which is roughly like 5.5 pounds. Like that's
Woo!
the biggest. On average, a female is about, 3.5 pounds, and a male is between 2.5 and 3 pounds. Um, yeah, they in the wild they live around 13, 14 years, but in
Oh,
captivity they
that's
can live.
pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's, I mean, for a predator. I mean, I guess there's not a whole lot of things that'll eat a great horned owl. They don't have too
Sure.
many things chasing them, but um, in the captivity, they can live up to 20, 30 years.
Oh, wow. And Dad, I'm sure you remember this. Like we growing up, especially in California, we definitely I want to say it's probably around like wintertime. Well, one time an owl swooped down in front of our mom and the dog, because our dog was a puppy at the time and was super little, and it just kind of came down to check them out. My mom kind of like shooed it away. It was kind of dark, and then we were always for a while we were hearing this one owl. Is that like one of the more common owls to hear, the great horned owl? It was just like
It
kind of
is.
stereotypical like hoo noise that they make. It's like, okay, that just sounds like a generic owl sound.
Yeah, actually that was a very good impression.
Oh, thank you.
They, yeah. So yeah, that's the one you hear out there. The hoo 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 hoo. There's others, species that sound like that. Some of them have more of like a screechy sound,
Right.
or like
Oh,
a
yeah.
squawking sound. Yeah. So, but yeah, typically if you're hearing that hoo hoo, it's usually a great horned or a barred owl or something. That the medium to bigger size owls making those
Okay.
noises.
Okay. Okay.
So when you bring in a rescue animal, somebody has to make a decision like, oh gosh, do we try to save
Dad,
this
it's hard to hear
animal?
you. Sorry.
Oh, do we try to save this animal, or is it beyond our scope, or are we being
Yeah.
mean, not euthanizing? So how is that determined? Is that like a committee, or is it somebody expert in that particular animal's field? How do you?
It's it's actually a combination of all of that, and I can speak to what we do here, and then I can kind of speak to what other places may or may not do. So to even get into this field and open up your own center, you have to have someone who goes through the state, and if we're going to work with raptors, go through the federal government
Oh,
to be
yeah.
licensed. So you always have a licensed wildlife rehabilitator on site, or not on site, but like within the organization.
Mhm.
And then you can have sub permittees, so people that work under your license. So here we have two people. I am one of two who actually have the license, and then we have a staff that kind of there's sub permittees under both of us. In our center, when an animal comes in, it depends on the situation. So if I'm the only one here, it's 9 o'clock at night. I get a great horned owl in, and he just got hit by a car. If he's in just bad condition and he's not going to make it through the night, I alone can make the decision to euthanize if necessary. And we go
Sure.
through a checklist. So it's not
Sure,
like
of
just a
course.
snap
Right.
decision.
It's like, oh, put him down. He's not gonna make it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he broke his thumb. He's out.
Right.
So, but typically, if we can, we try to bring in the other people. So the other license holder, the sub permittees, we say, okay, here's the situation. This animal has these injuries. The likelihood of recovering from these is X, Y, or Z. What are people's thoughts? And usually we try to do like a little, make a democratic decision on that. And I like that better because you get more ideas from more people, and and other people feel invested and involved, which they should be. Everybody's here for the same mission.
Right. All right. Wow. Yeah, that must be a hard choice. I did not that I did rescue well, there was a rabbit in our alleyway that got hit by a car, we think, and so I put him in a box and everything, and I was trying to find this rabbit rescue, and unfortunately he didn't make it, but I did take him to a wild rabbit rehabber, and she was telling me, he's not doing well, but she was actually getting ready to put him to sleep because he was not going to make it, but he passed on his own. But I just think again, it's great that there are people out there that care enough to actually do this and invest the time in it, and that's just amazing. So are you strictly with the avians, or how did you get into this specifically? How did you find yourself here?
So my background isn't. I grew up with animals, and I grew up in a hunting family. So I spent a lot of time in the woods, in the marshes. So I was always around animals. And at one point in my life, I just decided hunting wasn't for me anymore. I became a vegetarian. I said, if I'm not going to hunt, I'm not going to eat. I'm done with that. But I miss the wildlife. I love being out at
Right,
like dawn and watching owls fly around or deer walk by or this fox kind of scoot
right,
across the road. So I said I want to be involved. And up until that point, I was, for 20 years, I was in sports, strength and conditioning, and I was a neuro rehab specialist. So I
oh
was
wow,
actually rehabbing people for almost 10 years. I worked with primarily people with like spinal cord injuries and strokes
sure,
and brain injuries.
sure, oh yeah, that's
Um, yeah, and it's tough, but what was really cool transitioning into the wildlife rehab, a lot of that stuff kind of applied
yeah,
or
I was gonna say there was a lot of that kind of transition over, like, like occupational therapy, essentially, like, gotta teach the bird or whoever or whatever animal how to eat again, and like, can you do like how are your ADLs or
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's actually one of the best conversation starters. They're like, what did you do at work today? I said, well, I did physical therapy on a hawk. And
that's
now
cool.
people are like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So it was really cool transitioning into this. So, I've only been working as a wildlife rehabilitator for just over 3 years, and I
Mhm.
actually started in Indiana. So
Okay,
the species out there, I work primarily with the mammals. I was working with raccoons, opossums, squirrels, skunks. Um, I had experience with raptors, but not as much as when I came out here. It
sure.
was, hey, you're coming to Utah. Guess what? You're going to work with raptors and rodents. And I was like, you know what? Bring it on. I
Cool,
can.
yeah.
Let's do it. So I will say now though, after working with so many hawks and owls, they may be one of my favorite species to rehab. They're fun. They're characters, and they all have fun personalities. You know, I mean, the personalities all I want to murder you, let me go, and I go back in
Right,
the wild. But
right.
they're just God, they bring so much joy to me when I work with them.
So what would hawk physical therapy entail? And did our great horned owl have to do any physical therapy? Did you guys name it? Does he have like a rescue name, or is that
No,
frowned upon, or
yeah, so we do in the rehab world, we frown upon that. If
or
we do have them because we don't want to portray them as pets, right?
got it. No,
So
that makes
this is
sense.
an animal,
Right. This is
but
Alpha
if
53 or whatever.
exactly, they have numbers. So he was, I think he was 25,264. But if he became, we have ambassadors that they're unreleasable animals, but they're healthy. Of course, we
Sure.
name them because now we want a personality and like a persona attached to these guys. Um, so no, he doesn't have a name, but we do. His nickname is the Concrete Owl,
Perfect.
and so physical therapy. This guy did have some, and it was mainly just the stretching portion of PT. So
Okay.
because primarily the damage was around his wings, so we would stretch his wings out, and we would do some rotational stuff with them. Um, if you wrap up or bandage a wing, within a couple of weeks, those muscles can start to contracture, which means that
Oh
the
yeah. Right.
muscle they
Mhm.
shorten.
Right. And then
So
he's
we're
just
like,
kind of
oh,
stuck like this.
exactly. And of course, we want to prevent that as best we can. So the
Sure.
physical therapy is primarily stretching, but I had a hawk in one time who kept dislocating his shoulder, and so I'd have to reset it. And then the physical therapy was I would tug at the shoulder joint, and I would wait for him to kind of he would try to pull his wing back in. So that was like a strength exercise. He was pulling against my resistance.
That's crazy. I've
Yeah,
never considered a bird dislocating their shoulder, but that makes
You have a
sense.
little Pilates table for these guys
Yes,
or
they have the
something.
reform. I'm sure there's a reformer table for them and everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you joke. I actually had with my experience with people with neuro injuries, we had a golden mantle ground squirrel come in who was caught by a dog,
Eek.
and it like so dogs tend to have like a more of a crushing grab versus than like the biting of like a cat.
Yes.
Um, so it paralyzed the squirrel's back legs, or at least we thought. He
Yes.
wasn't moving them; he was dragging them. So we
Like,
set up kind of like a little hamster wheel treadmill, and we gave him PT every day, and he actually started walking again.
wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
it was
really
a very. I again telling friends and family what I did. I was like, "Well, I put a squirrel on a treadmill, and he's walking now.
yeah.
Is that
It's fun."
kind of like uncharted territory with respect to animals, with getting PT or finding out how to even structure a PT for them? Or is there some, I mean, I know they massage horses, and I've seen a guy on YouTube do chiropractic to a dog, but I've not seen PT. I mean, I've seen horses in pools,
Yeah, like the hydrotherapy, like the water
not
treadmill or
swimming, but,
whatever for
kind of
swimming.
walking or whatever
Yeah.
they do in water. Yeah. So are you making this up, or is there some,
Jeez, are you making this up?
Yeah,
no,
I
I mean, you have to just be necessities of mother of invention, or is there a best procedures, best practices that somebody else has been down the road already on animal physical therapy? That's my question, I guess.
yeah, and that's a wonderful question because that is it is at least in the wildlife rehab. It's not necessarily new, but it is minorly controversial because
Oh,
if you're going to do physical therapy, of course, someone might ask, well, if you have to go to those lengths, is this animal's quality of life,
oh, sure.
high enough to release?
Yeah.
And just to give my opinion, yes. I mean, as long as I'm not stressing this animal to its death, if it can tolerate physical therapy a little bit, it means I can get him into the wild where he's away from humans again, and it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
good story.
yeah.
Um, but I don't. I mean, I'm not claiming to. I might be the first one to put a squirrel on a treadmill, but I, these aren't necessarily new things, and I think as the field of wildlife rehab, which is fairly young in in its infancy, I guess. Um, as we find out new things and we study wildlife more, these things are going to become the best practices and they're going to become more common in wildlife rehab. And I think the people who are new to the industry are very open to trying these things again within reason.
Sure.
And so it's kind of fun being on the leading edge of it
Yeah. You're like on
and we
cutting edge.
reach out. Yeah, we'll reach out to other organizations that, hey, what are you guys doing when you get these types of injuries? And they're like, oh, we just discovered this cool thing. Like we do this. So, like I got this idea from so and so. So the field is actually very collaborative. I love it because everybody's willing to share and um, skills and knowledge because they want the field to grow. And obviously, we all again want these animals to get back to the wild.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
is your goal, like you said, to get them back to the wild, or if they can't get back to the wild, to get them to a place where they can be ambassadors, and then if they are ambassadors, do you keep them or do you send them out to other institutions?
So the goal is always the ultimate goal is always to release them. So ultimately get them back to at least wild physical strength, and they can go back and be wild animals like they were meant to be. Um, I wouldn't. I mean, beyond that, the question of keeping one as an ambassador is kind of again there's so many factors that go into it. That animal has to have an injury that isn't going to make their quality of life so low in captivity
It's
that
miserable.
they're just miserable. Yeah. And then they also need to be able to be the demeanor and their attitude has to be of what we call ambassador quality. If it's an animal that is super healthy, minus this one injury that prevents release, but every time someone walks by the enclosure or looks at them, they're panic flying or they're running
Oh,
into
yeah.
walls and stuff. We got to make sure that they have that attitude that like kind of like a calm demeanor essentially.
Yeah.
And then to the last part of your question, there are certain, every state has their own laws, like with wildlife rescues and rehab centers, and a lot of them say if an animal is, if like an injury happens, they come into your care, and that injury that you're trying to heal causes them to not be able to be released. If you want to keep them as an ambassador, you go through this permitting process.
Oh, sure.
However, if that animal comes in and it's one that can be imprinted or habituate to humans, and it happens in your care, then if it's going to become an ambassador, you've got to send it to another facility. And I think what the fear is, um, let's say someone gets in a raccoon. Oh my gosh, this is such a cute baby raccoon. I want to keep it here because they're so fun to play with.
Right.
I'm going to make sure it's habituated to humans so it can't be
Oh,
released.
yeah,
And then
kind
I'm
of
going
like
to keep it.
sabotaging it. Eek.
Yeah. Not that I'm saying in our field people will do that, but I
Right.
think this is a law in place to
Right.
like just that one little extra, like, please don't do this.
Right. Yeah. Like we get it. It's cute. It's fun, but it is still a wild
Mhm.
animal and it belongs in the wild.
Not Rocky,
Exactly.
Rocky Raccoon.
Dad,
Yeah, exactly.
you got to talk into the mic. Can't hear you.
Okay.
But so what are some things we can do to help like prevent owls from getting in cement mixers or our birds that are nocturnal or fly or crepuscular, if you will? Like what are things as humans like what can we do to like make sure our owl friends are safe?
Yeah, so that is a wonderful segue into things I love to talk about. So there are many things, and I can go into different degrees of that. I think the biggest thing is just us as humans. I would like to promote awareness. I
Sure.
think a lot of people just don't realize what animals, what wildlife are even in their backyards. And if you
Yeah.
don't know about it and you don't experience it, you probably don't care about it, and you're probably not invested in keeping it. So of course, I want people to know. I want to tell them all about the fun animals that are around and the ecosystem services they provide, and you know, watch but from a safe distance. All those wonderful things we hear a lot. Um, and then of course, as like for this exact example in the construction site, this owl just made a poor decision. It was the middle of the day. He flew to a concrete mixer in some way, shape, or form. Um, I mean, if that concrete mixer was in use, I it's hard to say that it was super preventable. But of
Right.
course, a great thing to do on a construction site, close up all these mixers, lids, um, if you are trying to prevent animals from going one place to the other, use certain types of fencing and deterrents and stuff. Um, like that's a good way to coexist with the animal. I
Sure.
mean, the other option is always you hear a lot of people saying, well, if this animal's causing you problems, here's the quick and easy solution. Wink, wink.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
so I hate that. There are so many other solutions that can be brought to the table prior to doing, going to the extreme. So I guess again, long-winded way of answering your question. The biggest thing is the awareness. I want people to know what's out there and
Yeah.
you know, what they can be invested in and what they have the opportunity to protect.
Yeah.
And then you can go into the finer details of, I always use the example of raccoons because they get a bad rap of being pests.
Right.
But, unfortunately, we as humans kind of create the environment for them to be called that. We
Yeah.
leave our garbage
True.
cans out,
Yeah.
lids off the garbage cans.
Feeding
They
your cat
find,
outside or feeding your dog outside, having dog food accessible. I'm so sorry. Give
yeah,
me one
exactly.
second. My dog is whining for some water. Dad, why don't you go ahead and ask a question really
Yeah,
quick?
do
I will
you
be right back.
do any like relocation service? Like if somebody, like alligator winds up, not that you're doing alligators, but an alligator winds up in somebody's pool, they'll send somebody over to get the alligator, but they won't kill the alligator. They'll just kind of bring it to where his friendly alligator buddies are. Do you do any of that
Right.
type of relocation service?
We don't. So that falls under like either animal services, animal control, or
Yeah.
even like pest control services. They'll do the relocation. The only time we relocate animals is, for instance, we're in the high desert here, and we have rattlesnakes.
Yes.
So if we have rattlesnakes on our property and they're near dwellings or animal enclosures or like our other buildings where a lot of people are going to be, we can go out there and relocate the rattlesnake within a safe distance from these buildings or enclosures.
You have qualified rattlesnake wrestlers to
Really
get a,
qualified snake
get
wrestler.
a rattlesnake without getting bit.
So we have someone who is he's like licensed through the state to do that, and then of course like he has subcommittees, and so he teaches us, and so we're I mean the people that go through the training go through a pretty extensive training,
Hmm.
um, and I mean I'll be honest, you know snakes are still I will handle snakes. It's not necessarily my favorite
Yeah.
animal
You
to
Yeah.
don't have
work
to
with.
handle the snake. We maybe
Yeah,
won't have to handle the snake, but if it has to be
yeah,
done, it has to be done.
So
Totally.
exactly.
I think you spoke about this, but I'm not sure how you if there's like a uh, had when you get an animal that can't go back to the wild. You said you have to put it out to another service, right, or something like that. So do you have like eBay or what do we call it, next door for animals, or what is it distance? Is it the fact of who has had this type of animal before? How do you decide to rehome the animal?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that hearing it as an eBay thing or a next door, but in reality, we actually do have something like that. Um, there's two organizations that guide wildlife rehabilitators: the North American Wildlife Rehabilitators Association and the International Wildlife Rehabilitation Council. For easier use, NWRA and IWRC.
Oh, okay.
Um, they have like it's like two parts. So they have, hey, we have this animal and we would like to rehome it to another facility. And I, again, kind of like to what you had spoken about, ideally you'd go to someone who has experience with this animal. But on the flip side, hey, we have this enclosure open that we typically house eagles or hawks in. If someone has an eagle or a hawk that's semi-native to southern Utah, we would love to bring that animal in. So it can go both ways.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So I have a kind of not a trick question or like a gotcha question, but what happens if you get a call and it's an invasive species? Do you
Mm,
euthanize? 'Cause I know some states like invasive species, it's like a zero tolerance policy, like it's out, like like you're taking your forever nap, it's done. Or do you
mhm.
try to rehab it and then maybe send it somewhere where it can be or it's supposed to be, or like how does that work?
So again, that's regulated state by state, and even sometimes that's like by region to region or even county to county in certain states. So um, for Utah, we do have a list of animals that we are not allowed to rehab because they're considered non-native or invasive.
Sure.
And then we also have some that are considered invasive that we are okay to rehab. So for instance, like European starlings are considered invasive, but there's nothing saying we're not allowed to rehabilitate them. So um, our philosophy is this animal didn't get himself here by his choice necessarily. He
Sure.
doesn't know he's invasive, so we're okay rehabbing them. I know other states are. It's like you said, it's a very hard no. Like no
Yeah.
permanent nap. Like we're not allowed to rehab this. So Utah has you know a couple of varying laws and regulations on invasive and non-natives. But I remember in being in Indiana, they were kind of like, nope, if it's a wild animal, you can take care of it, you can release it, but we frown upon this list of animals. So there's some like nudging, but not
Right.
necessarily a regulation in place.
Right. Right.
So
Okay.
if you
No,
got a,
okay.
like a, do you have feral pig problem in Utah?
We don't, no.
Oh, lucky you.
But I know
Okay.
Texas has that
Yeah.
big
Texas,
problem with feral.
Yeah.
California, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's I know like in California, like if it's a ferret or a hedgehog, it's an immediate like it gets confiscated and it gets put down. I know like that those are super illegal where we're from. But um I like that it is kind of on a state by state basis. Also, I was just looking up that European starling. What a beautiful bird.
Isn't it though, right? It's such
Yes.
beautiful patterning.
Yeah, it looks almost like a Christmas ornament. It's gorgeous.
So,
Yeah.
so what was your take on the peanut controversy? Peanut
What?
the squirrel. Do you remember Peanut the squirrel?
Yeah.
Oh,
They're going to drag
Oh
that
man.
back up. Yeah.
So well, not to get too into it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's um I will say I do have issue. Well, number one, I have issue with animals being taken out of the wild or being sold illegally on a pet trade
Yeah.
to become a pet. And in 16 states, I always come back to raccoons because it's one of my favorite animals. But in 16 states, you can legally own a raccoon if you buy from a breeder. So of course, breeders are going to be like, I'm going to make some money because everybody likes cute raccoons, and I'll sell them to these 16 states.
What?
So I'm super upset about that. Like that hurts me to the soul, like my core. Um, so like you
Holy
have those, and
Raccoons
that
are
raccoon
not
happens.
breeders.
pets.
I'm
They're
sorry,
not
you kind of
pets.
you kind of
No.
stumped me at raccoon breeders. I
Hmm.
did just
Yeah.
Google that. That's actually insane.
Yeah. And that's not, I mean, that's just one of many. I mean, we get, we have animals being shipped. Sulcata tortoises are native to Africa, but they're
Oh,
being shipped
yes.
over in tiny boxes, like by the hundreds and thousands to be sold. So, um, I don't think any wild animal should be a pet, and
Sure.
I don't think we should try to domesticate them. They are where they are. They belong there. We can appreciate them. We can love them, but we don't necessarily need to domesticate everything.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's a tough thing for me to
sure.
see kind of stuff like that happen. And again, like you said, it's a state by state thing. Um, like you were actually you're mentioning alligators. We don't have alligators here in Utah, but it is legal to own one if you can find someone to sell you an alligator, and you just got to bring it out here to Utah.
Oh my
So
god.
like that's something I would love to fight against. I would love to
Yeah,
change some of
absolutely.
these laws and be like, why are we even allowing this as a legality? Like it should just be plain illegal, and then you're fighting the legal pet trade versus, being told like it's totally fine.
Well,
Right, and
you look at Florida where they have those iguanas. When I lived in Florida, they didn't have iguanas. Now they're all over the place. They're dropping out of trees, and
Hmm.
it's a problem. The same with the boa,
no, the python, the Burmese
the
python.
python in the
Yeah.
Everglades. Somebody dumped one off, and you have an ecological nightmare because you're upsetting
Hmm.
the balance. And that's every time the balance is upset, it's we shouldn't we don't understand how to adjust the balance. Look at they took the wolves out of Yellowstone, and the elk
Hmm.
population exploded, and then the elks were messing up all the trees, so they had to put the wolves back in. And then if the wolf steps out of Yellowstone, somebody's going to blast the wolf.
Yeah,
So it's man does not know how to balance nature. Nature knows how to balance nature, I think. And maybe you
Yeah.
have a different take on it than I do because you're closer to the animals. But every time we try to tweak one thing, there's unintended consequences which we don't foresee or understand. And
Yep.
that type of stuff, you hear those stories all the time. So I'd like to hear your take on, playing with the balance of nature.
Yeah. I listen. I'm on the same page as you, and I think working with these animals and working directly with conservation, it only like amps me up more on this side of it. I like to use the quote from Jurassic Park. Thank you, Jeff Goldblum. Um, we were so preoccupied whether if we could, we didn't stop to think if we should.
yeah,
And we get so like, oh, we can do this and we can move this animal, we can take this one out. We don't like this, so let's get rid of it. Um, and you're right, we don't necessarily. I think we're getting better as science improves. That we're looking into more of these ecological environmental studies prior to doing something, but um, back then it was just if we want to do it, we did it, and we didn't know the consequences. We didn't know the trickle down effect that it would have. The wolves in Yellowstone is a great example. And then, like you said, once they reintroduced them, they balanced out the elk population. Then you started seeing these. I think there were willows or aspens or whatever growing back up by the river sides, and now it looks pretty much like it did, prior to the wolf decline. So no, it's again, that's part of the battle I fight is trying to tell people like, yes, this sounds cool, this sounds fun, these animals are cute, but we got to be careful what we tamper with because you don't know how many levels it's going to affect down the line.
Well,
And like you
true.
said, nature is good at balancing nature. We aren't.
Yeah. And you have a competing interests. You have farmers that don't want wolves in their cow and sheep pastures, and I get that, because that's their bread and butter. Um, so yeah, there's it's where you have to balance different people's perspectives as well as nature. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and one of the things which I'm a big advocate of is not that ranchers and farmers should have the right to just shoot any animal that crosses their fence line because it threatens their their livestock, and I'm not dismissing that that's their livelihood. What I'm saying, I think we need to get, when we talk about making these rules and regulations, we need to bring these farmers and ranchers in to get their perspective, have them be invested in the decisions, um, but also you know, it, we have to take everybody's advice and specialities into consideration. There are a lot of, and like I said earlier, a lot of other options rather than just shooting that wolf that came onto your property. There's tons of research out there of noise, lights, flags. Flags actually keep wolves away pretty well until they learn that they can go around or under them. But it's a start, and in just using multiple methods and cycling methods to keep predators at bay is a far better option than again the lethal alternative. And I know everything costs money, unfortunately, but I think there are ways to work together, as whether that's the government, that's organizations, that's public. I think we all need to work together to find out better ways of coexisting and not just the simplest way of you know taking care of a problem.
do you guys
Sure.
do anything with bats? You know, they have terrible PR people with bats. They need better public relations. They're
Yeah.
so important to the environment, but people are freaked out when they see a bat, thinking, that it's Dracula or vampire or something.
Yeah,
Do you
we
have
get
any?
calls. I was just gonna say we get calls about bats all the time. I've got a bat roosting in my, my awning. Like, can you come kill it? Can you get it out of here? It
Oh
has
God.
rabies.
How do you
I
know it
mean,
has rabies?
yeah. I'm sorry.
How do they know it has rabies?
Oh, right.
Well, because like you said, PR. If they're misinformed people,
Yeah.
every bat has rabies. But in reality, only about 1% of the population of bats has rabies. So it's again, that's getting the right information from the right people out there to kind of counter and smush down all this bad information is really what we need. So we need more people. So if you're offering, I'd love to set you up with a job to, to go out and
There you
start
go, Dad.
advocating for bats.
You can be
Well,
Batman,
well,
literally.
not only that, but when I walk sometimes here, I live in Las Vegas area, and I see coyotes all the time, and people on next door, they're freaking out about coyotes. Like your pet, this and that. The coyote's more afraid of me than I am of the coyote. I saw a coyote, it crossed the street. I saw another set of coyotes, they ran away from me, and I mean, yeah, if they jump your wall and your pet's out there and they're hungry, that might be a different scenario. But from the coyotes that I've encountered, they don't want to. They don't like people, or they didn't like me, and maybe it's just me.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, they really don't want anything to do with us. And, if they are grabbing little dogs out of yards, again, that's kind of where we can step in as humans. We're responsible for that animal. All it might take is just you turning on a floodlight or you standing out there with your dog while it's going to the bathroom, So the coyotes, we encroached on their territory.
Yeah.
They're trying to find a way to live with us.
There's more to
Unfortunately, I don't think.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
go
more
ahead.
to fear from a two-legged predator than the four-legged predators. I can tell you that.
Exactly.
So I have something to kind of add on to you, Dad. And I think you can probably agree to this too. I don't want to speak for you, but one thing we've definitely learned doing this podcast over years is so many animals are demonized for no reason. From the 1800s or 1600s, especially the wolf. It's such a demonized animal. And I tell people they're oh, it's bloodthirsty wolves. I'm like, the likelihood of you even seeing a wolf in the wild is like 1,000,000 to 1. And even if you see tracks, that wolf probably realized you were there, saw you, and hightailed it out of there. Actual wild wolves don't want anything to do with us. They are afraid of us. You're not going to, some pack of wolves is not just going to come jump you out in the woods kind of thing. But that's the perception people unfortunately have of them.
Hmm. Yeah, and you said it from the 1800s and maybe even before that, all these animals were demonized and they still are to an extent. So I think it's going to take time for the right people to de-demonize,
Yeah.
It's unfortunately won't happen overnight as much as I would love that to happen, but yeah. So, but like, I can really appreciate you guys doing this podcast because as you guys learn that stuff and you spread that news, it's just going to keep spreading. That they really aren't these bad, evil Draculas
Yeah.
or grandma's wolf that's going to kill everything. These are great animals that are they're just living their lives, and honestly, if we leave them alone, they will most likely leave us alone too.
Yeah. Well, Dad, what do you think? I mean, you think because even whales, we've had a couple of cetacean experts on, and even then, I think it's like 1800s, 1900s, whales had a really bad PR management situation,
Well, they
and
were
now
used for their oil,
right, but
their
they were
blood.
definitely demonized too, like the evil whales, so people wouldn't feel bad about stabbing them. And then
Hmm.
now everyone's like, free the whales, we love the whales, save the
Look,
whales.
look what Jaws did to the great white shark. It's like,
Yeah.
now they do eat people every once in a while, but generally it's very rare. And
Hmm.
You're also
you
in their
know,
house.
Right. Yeah.
right. So I think somebody just got eaten in the West Coast.
California?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Um,
think yeah, who was I talking to about that? They disappeared. But
Great.
yeah, they're concerned, but we have to live. We can't get rid of all the animals, otherwise we're going to die ourselves.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And that I think that's another thing a lot of us don't realize is that um, a lot of those wildlife and the wild animals play a big part of our lives, and if they disappear, our lives are going to change drastically and not for the better. So, um, yeah, if we help save our environment, help save these animals, that's in turn helping us. So, like, I mean, that's a win-win. Why would we not want? It's an upward battle, but I think there's a lot of people out there working to um, like demonize animals and change perception. So I applaud all those people working on that.
Have you ever seen or do you encounter animals that were poisoned, but not intentionally poisoned, but they just
Oh.
chow down on the wrong food or thing? Like I don't know, instead of they thought they were drinking water, but it was chlorinated water, and they
Or
screwed them.
antifreeze. Antifreeze seems to be really
Yeah,
popular with
Hmm.
domestic and wild animals,
right.
unfortunately.
Yeah. No,
Do you have
and
any
that's
cases like that?
we do, and we actually had one recently. Um, it was of another owl, another great horn, and we couldn't figure out. After some testing, we realized it was a rodenticide poisoning. And if the owl's not eating the rodenticide, the
Right.
owl's eating the
The poisoned
mouse
rat.
that ate the rodenticide.
Right.
Yeah, and that unfortunately happens far more often than we see. Typically, we don't get them into our care before they pass in the wild. So I'm sure the cases are, the stats are probably higher than what we actually see. But yeah, that happens pretty often. Same thing with, bobcats, coyotes. These things are eating other animals that could have ingested those poisons. And then again, trickle down effect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it poisons the food chain. It's not
Hmm.
funny, but our greyhound, she killed a rabbit on New Year's Day. It was very nice. She brought it in the house and everything. It was a great time. But so a lot of people, was kind of posted about it. I was like, oh, dog's being a dog. And everyone's like, eat it or like, let the dog have it. And I'm like, no. And that was like, honestly, one of my biggest concerns. It's like 50-50 chance that this rabbit has been exposed to a rodenticide or some sort of pesticide. And I don't want to have to learn the hard way that it was because now my dog is either dying or very sick. And then
Hmm.
sure enough, I had a patient come in who actually lives in the neighborhood across the street from me, and he was telling me how the rabbits were destroying his garden and how he had actually put down rodenticide to get rid of them, and the rabbits have
Oh,
stopped showing up. So I was
geez.
just like, for all I know, that could have been one of your rodenticide rabbits that got in my yard. And so it just kind of helped me reaffirm, like, just quiet, just not just like humanely disposing of the rabbit carcass and putting it away
Hmm.
and not letting my dog eat it or having us eat it. I know some places that's a delicacy, but what to me it personally wasn't worth the risk of trying to find out.
Hmm.
But also then hearing that from a neighbor slash patient, I was like, okay, now I'm really glad I didn't
Yeah.
let her just have it.
Yeah, that just affirmed exactly what you were kind of suspecting. So, um,
So I
kind
know
of
you.
similarly, lead is another big issue.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
Like
yeah,
and again, hunters, again, I came from a hunting family. I have nothing against hunting, but using lead is an issue. So,
right.
when animals, when they, gut their animal in the field and they leave gut piles, that gut pile could have lead in it.
Oh,
And,
Yeah,
our raptors and our vultures, and they're all eating that. And so we do actually see more cases of lead poisoning than we do of rodenticide.
Yikes.
I mean, probably because we see more raptors out here, but just another big issue. So those hunters out there listening, if you please switch to, steel, it's a
Right.
better option for everybody.
Yes. No, we've touched
So
on that a few times
do
too
you,
about the lead. Sorry, Dad, continue.
yeah, do you get involved? Like, there are some places where a population will get out of control. Are you involved in finding natural predators to balance it? Like, we were at a place where there were, I don't know if it was squirrels or chipmunks, but they were just like pot marking the earth, and I think it was just kind of weird. Uh, so I know you're rescuing animals, but are you involved at all in any kind of ecological
Like
balance?
rebalancing the ecosystem,
Mhm.
so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah,
In my job currently, no. I mean,
yeah.
we're not necessarily involved in that. However, because I'm trying to develop a lot of relationship with our like division of wildlife resources biologists,
Hmm.
I'm starting to make some friends now where we could. I don't know how much I can contribute to that, but I'd love to be a part of trying to come up those solutions. And because we work really closely with these other organizations, I think having these partnerships would be great.
Because we had
But no,
spoken.
I'm not directly involved.
Okay, we had
Yeah.
spoken to some folks in Hawaii, and the feral cats were messing up these
Oh,
birds that don't
yeah.
fly. Remember those?
That's the other
That,
thing. Yeah. Please keep your
yeah,
cats inside.
right. So yeah, the cats were screwing up the
They're a
bird
problem
population.
everywhere. They're a problem. Any
Yeah,
outdoor cat is a problem. Like any cat that is a domesticated short hair or whatever that is outside. And I tell people that too. Like, oh, we have an outdoor cat. And I'm like, I'm not judging you, but also you should bring your cat inside and just keep it there.
Yeah, it's a big problem. They kill quite a few. I mean, just speaking of birds alone, they
Yeah.
kill quite a few every year. And again, like you said, simple solution: bring your cat indoors, or
right.
or be out there watching, or build a catio, put him on a leash.
Catio. Yes.
There's so many solutions.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. That the catio, but yeah, I was honestly gonna go the leash route too. But yeah, it's so funny, like things that that are so normalized to us. I don't think people realize how potentially or how harmful they actually are, like having an outdoor cat kind of thing, or not being outside with your dog when it goes to the bathroom, or just kind of doing. Why can't I think of the word? Again, just kind of being like responsible, like kind of like the spay and neuter thing, where it's like spay and neuter your pets. It's like, okay, cool. Now let's take it a step further. Bring your cat inside and keep it inside.
Yeah,
Well, I think like where you live in Texas, I don't think it matters, but in Hawaii, it mattered a lot because they were decimating that bird population. I can't remember what bird it was, but it was bad.
I think it lays eggs in on the beach is part of the
yeah.
problem
It's
too.
oh, I'm blanking on the name. That's man. Yeah, it is. You're right though. It's a shorebird that the feral cats were getting out there and decimating the populations.
Right.
Oh my goodness. It'll come to me right
Yeah,
after we get
Yeah,
off
of
here.
course.
of
Yeah, no,
course,
they'll be
of
like, oh, I
course.
got it now. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's how it
Yeah.
always goes. Perfect. Well, I had one last question. I'm with you. Like, if we circle back to like, you can legally own an alligator in Utah. That makes no
Mhm.
sense because even if that animal were to get out, the winter would probably kill it.
It's not the right environment.
Right. So it's like,
Exactly.
honestly, it's
Yeah.
from an animal welfare perspective, and maybe that's how you could, I don't want to say like market, but maybe sell that to voters is like, from an animal welfare perspective, like this animal will not survive here, even if does get loose, it's gonna, probably freeze to death or whatever. So it's like, why have it even be legal at all? Because it's not like it's gonna survive here, even if it gets out. Like, what is the purpose here?
Well, I see a lot of
Exactly. And
huskies. I
yeah.
see a lot of huskies in Las Vegas, which I don't quite understand. I mean, it's nice for a few months, like right now, but after that, it's not husky territory.
Yeah, I when I was out in Vegas, I saw the same thing, and that same thing that popped in my head. I said, "Whoa, I don't think these guys do very well in the summer out here."
No, no,
No,
yeah.
they don't. They don't. Well, same thing. I've seen a
Yeah.
couple huskies even when I was in Louisiana when I was in school, and people are like, I'm getting a husky, and I'm like, in Louisiana? Here?
Sure.
Where it's 9 months of summer and like 90% humidity almost all the time. I was like, are you sure you're you want that here? And they're like, oh well, if they're bred and born, like in the South, it's easier for them. I'm like, you realize it's a Siberia, like
It's
where Siberia
it's
is, right? Like I just
it's
don't
they're
look at a
not going to
global
breed
map.
out the genetics in one breeding.
Right.
Let's put
It's
it
like
that
I
way.
just need to like take a really good hard look at this. Look
Yeah.
where
Yep.
Siberia is and where Louisiana is.
Yeah, just a touch different.
Right. Totally. But anyways, thank you so much for your time, Bart. We don't want to take up any more of your time. I really
Thank
appreciate you.
you.
We would love to have you back on in the future to talk about any more successful rescues. So what do we think it lies ahead for, was he bird 263A, something like that?
Yeah, so Concrete Owl 25-264.
There it is.
So goal is continue to monitor him, help him grow healthy through the spring. And as we begin to watch him molt, we're going to be very closely watching those new feathers coming in. And ideally, he only has to molt like the 4 really, really bad primaries he has. And if he does that, we have very high hopes of him being released. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, stay tuned. Watch our Facebook, Instagram pages. We're going to keep updating everybody on this owl. We have a lot invested in him, and I know he's ready to go. So,
Sure.
yeah, and again, thank you guys so much for having me. This is
Thanks for coming
fun. I'd
on.
love to come back
Yes, we
Does
would
he have
absolutely
anytime.
love to have you back. But
Does he have a
again,
test flight that he has to pass?
well, he has
make sure.
that flight aviary, right? That you were saying.
Yeah, he's in the flight, and so he's currently flying. But we always do a like a final test where we make sure he can do so many passes without getting winded or
Oh, sure.
without crashing or burning.
Oh, yeah.
So, but
Do,
based on what we've seen so far, I think he's going to pass that just fine.
Yay!
do you put a mouse in his enclosure and see if he can survive?
Get it?
So, yeah, so that's where we have. So since he's an adult, he came in as an adult, like a juvenile, but an adult. So we know he had been hunting out in the wild. At Best Friends, we do not do any live prey testing. If we have to do that, we send them to another rehabilitator who can.
Sure.
But right now, like I said, he came in after almost like 9-10 months of his life. So we know he's hunting.
Got it.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Got it.
I'm sure that's an
Well,
whole
thank you
other
so much
ethical
for your
area
time,
too with
and
live prey.
thank you for being a friend of the animals.
Yes, absolutely, Bart. We'll
Yeah.
definitely have to have you on again. And where can we find you? And where can we follow Concrete Owl in the future? Where can people make donations?
Yeah, so if you visit the Best Friends website, we have a donation page, and you go on there and donate to the organization as a whole. If you want to follow Wild Friends specifically, we do have our own Facebook page and Instagram page. I believe it's BFAS_wildlife on Instagram. And we do post a lot of, not just Concrete Owl, although he's pretty famous. We post a lot of great things on there. So please follow us. Please donate to Best Friends. Some of that money comes to us, so that's appreciated by the wildlife. And yeah, just even if you just come out to Southern Utah to Kanab and you want to visit the sanctuary, we always love having visitors and volunteer. You can come volunteer here. You can come work with some of the animals. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, please swing by.
How far are you from St. George?
About an hour and a half.
North, just north.
Mostly east, a little northeast,
okay.
But north. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So if you're in Vegas, from Vegas, it's about a little over 3 hours to the sanctuary.
Oh, that's not too bad. We'll have to take a trip up there someday. Not in the summer. Not in the summer.
Yeah.
Right. No. Fall or spring is your best time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again so much, Bart, for your time. Really appreciate everything that you do. And just as always, if you guys can follow us on Instagram, Just Animals Pod, send us an email. And if you have any questions for Bart, we're also going to post in the episode description Best Friends Animal Society and the link to y'all's Instagram and everything too. Okay. Thank you again, Bart.
All right.
Thank you guys so much. You guys take care.
You too.
Good night.